breaking news, and it's far reaching and it goes as deep as possible, in fact. Now we learned that the signing ceremony of the memorandum of understanding has been moved to a very secure location owned by the Qatari royal family, but the hosts graciously will be Pakistan. After all, they were the mediators of the whole process. But there's more to that because the people who are at the negotiation table, the Pakistani mediators, they received a piece of intel that is extremely compromising, that the Israelis would be once again, according to their typical modus operandi, considering the assassination of one of the Iranian protagonists.
Hey there, welcome to the latest episode of Transition Protocols, hosted by Zulfiqar Ali and my dear friend Pepe Escobar, and I'm Larry Johnson. We bring together an interesting mix of journalism, professional business, intelligence, and we try to bring you the latest, greatest breaking news, things that you're not going to hear on regular shows. And so today's focus, again, is to keep pace with what's unfolding, whether or not there is actually going to be a signed memorandum of understanding. Will this actually lead to peace? And to that extent, we're going to have Zulfiqar take over and lead the discussion. Z, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Larry. I am reporting from everything that I know, and I know to be reliable, and I know to be trustworthy, and so far it has proven to be so. My information is that parties, with a great deal of effort, and as a result of certain intelligence that my partners will share with you, decided to move the venue to Bürgenstock in Switzerland. It is a site that is highly secure. It's in the mountains. It is owned by the Qatari royal family, and the Qataris have been extraordinarily gracious in allowing Pakistanis to be the host of this entire ceremony. Pakistanis will host the Americans, JD Vance in particular, and the Iranians. And the most important item of business in the peace process will be the signing of what is called the memorandum of understanding that will trigger a 60-day process of negotiating the peace. And there's a lot behind this. And I turn it over to my very dear friend and brother, Pepe Escobar, who travels all over the world and collects news that is beyond what it is that is reported by myself and others.
Well, thank you, Z. Thank you, Larry. And yes, we have breaking news, and it's far reaching and it goes as deep as possible, in fact. Now we learned that the signing ceremony of the memorandum of understanding has been moved to a very secure location owned by the Qatari royal family, but the hosts graciously will be Pakistan. After all, they were the mediators of the whole process. But there's more to that because the people who are at the negotiation table, the Pakistani mediators, they received a piece of intel that is extremely compromising, that the Israelis would be once again, according to their typical modus operandi, considering the assassination of one of the Iranian protagonists of the signing of the memorandum of understanding. It could be, for instance, Ghalibaf, which is the number one Iranian operative, which will be in Geneva on Friday, or it could be another member of the Iranian delegation. This is standard procedure in terms of how the Israelis operate. And after that, we had a message delivered by Pakistani diplomatic sources to the Israelis, basically telling them point blank, if you attempt to derail the signing or the after signing or if you're going after the lives of Iranian protagonists of the signing, which are basically protected by us and our friends, you're going to hear directly from us, and it's not going to be pleasant. So I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible with that. So, Z, confirm that this is the key information that we received, and then I'll pass it over to Larry so Larry can deconstruct this latest piece in the puzzle.
It is absolutely, without a question, information that was passed on to me so that I could share it with you and with Larry, specifically by name. So the people who are providing this information know you. And it was provided to me 2 days ago. And it was provided again yesterday. And it was provided again today. That this is the real reason why this particular site has been chosen. And Pakistan is completely vested behind this process, completely vested. And Iranians have welcomed Pakistan's participation and in no uncertain terms. Okay. I have asked this question repeatedly so that I know and I can pass it on to you. No uncertain terms, Iranians have been told, you mess with this, you'll hear from us.
Larry, please.
So we're at an interesting juncture here. So when we started talking earlier this week, there still remains, let's say, skeptical that there will actually be a signing ceremony because so far the public released versions of the MOU, the one released by Iran, differs somewhat significantly from the one issued by the United States that was reported by Bloomberg. Now, curiously, the one thing that both the United States and Iran appear to agree on is that there should be, the language is the same in both, a permanent, immediate, and permanent ceasefire, which includes Lebanon. And to that extent, we have seen sort of a remarkable change in Donald Trump's language. You always watch his language, as we talked about 4 weeks ago, where in the period from May 30th, the day after the United States was told by the government of Pakistan that Iran was prepared to detonate a nuclear device as a demonstration if these talks, if the United States didn't back away from the attacking Iran and get serious about these talks. In the aftermath of that, we saw a complete change in how Donald Trump talked about Iran. It was almost collaborative. He was not seeking to be confrontational. And then in the immediate aftermath, there was that dust up for about a week, where it was back to harsh language, starting last week. And then all of a sudden, as it came upon this past Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, when Israel violated the ceasefire and the warning issued by Iran to not attack into the suburbs of Beirut, that Iran, when Iran was ready to retaliate again, and that's what finally brought Donald Trump around willing to make the concessions that Iran was demanding. So still, we're stuck with it. To this point, Donald Trump has not released the substance of that memorandum to show that it, in fact, tracks with what Iran is saying. So we'll have to wait and see. It could be that the reason Trump is not releasing it is wanting to not allow it to get into public so that it could become a rallying point for the Zionists and the folks who want to keep this war going on. Of course, the cynical part of me says, even though Israel's reporting publicly that they asked Trump for a copy and he wouldn't give it to them, I think the intelligence operatives that work for Israel that are inside the Trump administration probably already have a copy and they know what's coming down, which goes back to explain why they're willing to try to kill members of the Iranian delegation, as if killing is going to stop this peace process. All it would do is accelerate Iran's desire to retaliate even further against Israel, and which, ironically, may actually help advance the peace process. So we're at a very volatile time, and the other thing that's come out today, it sounds like Trump is setting up JD Vance that if this thing doesn't go right, if it goes wrong, JD Vance gets the blame.
Well, it's the modus operandi that was quite evident on Sunday when Israel bombed Dahie, and their original, I would not even say insight, their wishful think is that this would derail the MOU completely. But Iran and Arakshi was in Islamabad when that happened. Arakshi was discussing with the mediators in Islamabad the finer and final points of the MOU. So he could tell, he was in communication with you in Tehran, obviously, so he could tell the Pakistanis right away, okay, send a message to the Americans. If they don't stop Israel, what they're doing against Dahie, against Lebanon, we are ready to start bombing Israel now. And our finger is on the trigger, and we have a list of targets. Few minutes later, they got a response from the White House. Okay, we're going to sign. So this may happen all over again until Friday, until the signing ceremony in Geneva, or even afterwards. Because obviously, the death cult in West Asia, they are relentless. They are worse than Terminator. They will never stop. So everybody knows it. GCC players, the petrol monarchies, Turkey, Egypt, the Americans, the Iranians, the Pakistanis, the Russians, the Chinese, everybody knows that. So, how to rein in these people? Only what Iran already did on a Sunday with a clear, direct message, first relayed to the Americans. And now, what we're discussing in the beginning of our talk today, this message relayed directly to the Israelis. If you try to do something against the Iranian delegation, you're going to hear directly from us, Pakistan. There's no other way to dissuade these people. They are immensely dangerous. They are berserk with the MOU. Obviously, they have a copy. Come on, everybody in the Arab world has a copy of the MOU. Not to mention the copies in Arabic and Farsi have been translated into English all over the place. So everybody has a copy of the MOU. And the terms are quite similar, including the copy that is being circulating in the US. So everybody what's in it, the 14 points, which were an Iranian staple from the beginning, are there. And at least 3 of these were agreed by Trump on Sunday night. So, literally a few hours ago.
Yeah.
Considering the span of the whole thing. So, the key point is that Iran played Trump to the point of total exasperation for weeks. They were not in a hurry for this MOU to be approved and signed. They're still not in a hurry. They're still debating before the signing because it's the Supreme National Security Council who are debating among themselves, do we sign or not? And this delegation order came straight from a leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. Mojtaba told the Supreme Council, you guys decide for yourselves. If you have a solid majority, you have my blessings. You can sign it. Otherwise, nothing. Today is Wednesday, and it has not been signed by Iran yet. So they're still discussing it. So from today to Friday is like an eternity, really. Mm-hmm. And there will be challenges and there will be disruptions. There's no question about that. At least now we have solid, credible messages from Iran to the Americans via the Pakistanis. And from the Pakistanis to Israel, if you try anything funny, you will regret it.
Yeah,
I totally second that because I asked not once, three different times, 3 different days, same answer, by a man who is physically there in Bürgenstock right now.
Exactly. And he is going to be at the table on Friday, right?
Correct.
Hmm.
He has always been at the table.
Yeah, let me just make a couple other observations. One, we shouldn't fall into the trap of believing that this is just a Bibi Netanyahu policy. Because if you saw the appearance of Naftali Bennett on the Piers Morgan show, I think it was yesterday or the day before, he was talking about Netanyahu as if Netanyahu was a sellout, and how tough Naftali Bennett's going to be on Iran. So it's
going to
important.
be your worst nightmare, nah?
Yeah, the worst
Exactly
nightmare.
word.
Yeah, exactly. So this reflects the fact that within Israeli public opinion, the vast majority, they're still keen on a conflict with Iran and on destroying Hezbollah if they can. That's their dream, but their capability to do so is limited. As long as if the United States doesn't get on board with them, they really don't have a good option. They don't really have a military option, a viable military option. The other thing, though, that appears to have also played a factor in this is the influence that China has exerted both over Pakistan and over Iran. I think there are some things in that 14-point plan that Iran submitted to the United States that, frankly, I think were a little squishy as far as Iran is concerned. That they could have been much tougher. But the reason the Iranians were willing to listen to the Chinese is through Pakistan is because China has provided important economic support. Mm-hmm. They have provided important military support. And for China, it's also been beneficial that they've been able to provide missiles that have been launched and used against U.S. targets as a way to do, if you call it field research. It's one thing to shoot things off on a range. Another thing to shoot it in real, in the real world environment, to see both how the U.S. air defense systems respond to it and how it performs in battle. And to that extent, in using those systems, it brought Pakistani technicians into the country, into Iran itself, to work with Iran in those launches. And those launches, particularly the attacks that took place on the 9th and 10th of June, a week ago, were particularly devastating for the United States because it destroyed a significant amount of aircraft, but more importantly, some very critical, let's call them radar, technical monitoring systems that also had connections to satellites. And so this was, for the United States, it turned out Iran was actually inflicting more damage on the United States than the United States was inflicting on Iran. So all of these, I think, are in the back of the mind of the United States, is trying to explain why are they coming to the table now. But I'd say the final point to make on this is the worsening economic situation for the world. Because right now the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which the U.S. has been draining over the course of the last 3 months, they only have roughly 17 days left before they would run out if they're using it at 20 million barrels a day, which is the daily consumption in the United States. So once that's out, they can no longer pretend that there's plenty of oil. There is not plenty of oil. And, one of the curious things with this memorandum of understanding is they're giving like a 60-day window to do the negotiations, and at which point, the blockade would be fully lifted, or they might have full operations. Again, that's one of the points still in dispute. But according to the Department of War, formerly known as the Department of Defense, it's going to take up to 6 months to clear the Persian Gulf of mines. Well, that's a lot long. 60 days is 2 months. So we got potentially 4 more months of the Persian Gulf not operating because of the mines. They can operate through Iranian channels, And
Mhm.
Iran, again, will be the beneficiary there. But as far as the rest of the Persian Gulf, the insurance companies, if nothing, they're not going to certify ships to sail until they got a solid guarantee from the United States or, say, NATO that, yes, the Persian Gulf is free and safe and you're not going to run into a mine.
Very, very important point in terms of the China, Pakistan, Iran alignment. And this has been, it got deeper and deeper these past few weeks. Everything that the Pakistanis on the table were discussing with Iran and then relaying to the Americans had been pre approved by China. And this since that first meeting in Islamabad of the four Sunnis, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Turkey. And the next day, the Pakistani foreign minister went to talk to Wang Yi in Beijing. So
Yes.
obviously the Chinese were all over the place from the beginning. So this is very, very important because everything that is agreed with between the Pakistani mediators and the Iranian negotiators is sanctioned by China. So there is a total alignment. And of course, in terms of what Larry mentioned, straight military collaboration, there's absolutely no question about that. And it's not an accident, on the contrary, that the top Iranian official now in charge of Iran strategic China relations is Ghalibaf. That tells you everything you need to know. The most able, the most competent of them all now is dealing directly with China. And he proposed, in fact, it's not a block, but he's proposing a very, very tight relationship, which will be almost like a block between Iran and China. And of course, this brings Russia as well because they have three interlocking strategic partnerships and they're going to be much, much closer than they were only a few days ago. And also, a very important point in terms of the big, big picture. It's very clear for Tehran, for Beijing, and for Moscow that the big war of the American, let's say, old elites and the plutocracy who actually runs the country. Donald Trump is just a messenger. It's not very important. But the people who actually run the show, the war is against Russia, China, Iran. And it will not disappear. It may go now into sort of slow motion, but dark ops, black ops, dirty ops, attempts at regime change, this won't disappear. It will be back to hybrid war, not hot during the 40 something days of the war. It will continue. So now it's the US retreating. It suits Trump because he needs some breathing space before the midterms. He can proclaim mission accomplished and at least fool part of his supporters by saying, look, I got the Strait of Hormuz back to work again.
Yeah.
So now oil can flow through Hormuz again, just like he could 3 months ago. But he can sell that to people who have no idea how it was 3 months ago. The attention span, as we know, is very, very short. He can, let's say, in terms of the political capital that he lost for these past 3 months, considering again the attention span in the US, which is very restricted, in 2 or 3 months, people will forget about it. And he may come up with some Roman Empire style divertissement for the galleries. Okay, we have a new adventure. Cuba, Greenland, whatever, Haiti, Curacao, whatever, whatever. But change the narrative, tweak the narrative, so everybody will forget about Iran. Meanwhile, the negotiations will continue. They're going to be very hard. They're going to be acrimonious to death. And there's no guarantee, and Larry may confirm that the US is going to fulfill any of the 14 points in the MOU.
Yeah. No, I agree. And the other wild card here remains the global economy.
Mhm.
I continue to believe that the full effects of the supply disruption caused by losing 44% of the world's supply of helium, which is essential for not only producing medical equipment like MRIs, but also computer chips. The the shortage of fertilizer caused by the drop off of urea and sulfur, and then the disruption to the oil markets. This has not yet been reflected with the raging inflation and rising unemployment and declining economies. That's what's coming, and it's not just for one country, it's for the world. The global effects of this have yet to be fully felt, and and when that hits, it'll be against this backdrop that the war against Iran will have even more damaging repercussions than the West is prepared to absorb.
Absolutely. And there's something that unfortunately I received. I was in the middle of a podcast, another podcast before talking to you guys. I received from one of my old school U.S. sources now in Europe an extremely detailed report about what could happen in mid-August when the strategic petroleum reserves of the U.S. will be going down the drain, as Larry mentioned. Trump has these numbers, and apparently he freaked out completely. And this is possibly the number one reason for we need Hormuz open now by all means necessary. And still, like Larry mentioned, because of the mines, it will not be enough to restore full circulation.
Yeah.
Only tankers who will go along Iranian territorial waters, the 12 miles near Qasem Island. In fact, what they were doing before, even during the American blockade, that's it. You cannot go through the center of the Strait of Hormuz. Impossible, because it's mined and it's going to take at least 6 months. So it won't be full restoration of trade through Hormuz, but it will be a palliative, let's put it this way. But the numbers, what could happen starting mid-August, then is the total collapse of the global economy if that happens.
Yeah.
You simply cannot eliminate 1 billion barrels of oil with no consequences. It's absolutely out of the question. And obviously, so far, Trump was not thinking about it. Apparently, he started thinking about it only a few days ago when he saw these numbers.
Well, I want to add something to what Larry has been saying every time we have had this conversation, which is that the spoiler in this is going to be the Zionists, but this time I am told, and this is the third time today that I was told again, that, well, if the Zionist does what the Zionist does, the Zionist is going to learn a lesson that he has not learned so far from somebody who is capable of giving that lesson.
Well,
yes. Go ahead, Larry, please.
Well, no, I was just going to say, at that point, what we provided today, for those of you who've taken time to watch this and to listen, is some insights into what is going to unfold in the next 36 hours. We're not Nostradamus. We can simply tell you what the dynamics are, what will possibly happen. But I think at this point we will wrap up our discussion by asking you to hit the like and subscribe button. We do want to grow this audience. We do believe it's important that you tune in, and you can get some content and some understanding that you're not going to get on some other platforms. Not that those other platforms are not valuable, but as we try to build this particular channel up and to have it as a fairly focused effort to give you the best intelligence we have and the best analysis that we can. And, we certainly indebted to Zulfiqar for making this happen and bringing it together.
Fantastic. Well, I could not have done that without the two of you. And for the first time, I should say that the source specifically asked for you. I did not have his permission to say that until just now. Of all the people, the source, the contact said, these are the people I listen to, these are the people I respect. So if you can get them to join you, I will give you information that will not be available anywhere else. And we have seen that happen.
And thanks, everybody, our audience. We are slowly but surely recovering the numbers that we had before we were abruptly canceled by orders of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
I think we recovered almost half of our initial audience, which is in a matter of days is quite it's very very impressive. So thanks all of you all over the world, and yes, this is the home of fresh intel, straight from the table, straight from the negotiating tables, confirmed by other intels all around the world, straight to you with no filters. Cheers.
And from the best analysts in the world, one of whom worked for the CIA and knows how the CIA works, and one of whom goes all over the world to collect information from
No, Rob,
Shanghai.
I was working for Al Qaeda all along.
Well, thank you very, very much. Please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and we shall be back on Monday again with latest information, intelligence, and with the analysts. Thank you very, very much for being a part of this program, and we hope that you remain with us. Bye bye.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks.
I'll hit the stop button right now.